effectively made children an acceptable list on the assisted suicide starting March 17th, down to the age of 12, for medical assistance in dying over depression.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Hey everyone, my name is Kelsi Sheren, and I used to be an artillery gunner in the military, but now I run Brass and Unity.
What do you think the public needs to know about plant medicine in the veteran community?
It works. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. You know what's really magic is we're seeing people heal. Here's what I see with young men. We've cultivated a community of people that boys don't cry. But there are people who have been around for a little bit who need to cry about some shit.
Yeah. We're so pumped to have you in town.
Thanks for having me.
Is she our first Canadian on the pod?
I got to think about this for a sec.
I've had a lot of guests.
You might be our first Canadian.
Oh my God, I love when I get to be people's first Canadian.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Wow.
I know.
We'll send you like a plaque in the mail.
Should I do a
Some
thicker
maple syrup.
accent to really lean into it for you here?
Overemphasize everything.
Oh, I'll leave that for Dallas. He's good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, in all seriousness, we're so pumped to have you on the show. I was saying to you when we met, it's so funny how the first time I came across you were these HVMN, these ketone IQ ads I was getting.
Yeah.
And then when our crazy Ari connected us, I think, for you to come on the podcast, we just started deep diving into your content, and there's so much amazing work you've done around, mental health, the way that you work with the veteran community, somatic breath work, Brass and Unity. Like, your resume is unbelievable. And we were saying that we're particularly excited because we focus so much about nutrition and health and wellness, but haven't really done a deep dive into mental health before. We've talked about mindset, some podcasts. We love talking about it. But I think your perspective is going to be really cool for our audience and for us too, just to learn from you as well.
Well, it just shows the evolution of the show for me, for you in my perspective, because if you're looking at diet, you're looking at sleep, you're looking at mindset, well, all of these things directly tie and affect right up that brainstem to the mental health and the prefrontal cortex and how we make decisions and how we react. And that is directly from our nervous system. And so when you eat right, you sleep right, you do the right things, it's going to affect your mental health. So it's like a nice thing to see you guys kind of be like, hey, we're climbing the ladder up to that brain.
Baby.
I love it.
Well, also, you can't really look at any of these things in a vacuum. Like, that's kind of like the problem with the medical system to begin with. It's like, let's diagnose this one isolated issue with this one cure that isn't actually a cure. It's just a Band-Aid. Like, that's
like
part of the problem. Yeah, exactly.
Like Ozempic.
Yeah.
Should we talk about Ozempic?
Well, I talked about it yesterday, so that's why it was fresh in my mind, so my apologies. But you're right. When you look at things in a vacuum, you get decades and decades of miscommunication and misinformation and wrong diagnoses and unnecessary overprescribing pharmaceutical medications. And a lot of it comes down to, did we just not know better? And right, so you can't it's difficult to not be harsh on the medical system to an extent, because obviously it's like you don't know what you don't know till you know it. But then when you start to see the unraveling of the considerable attempts to make it so with like sugar companies and FDA and all of these wild things, you start to go, oh, this was like, it feels like strategically planned so that we are never well enough to be able to advocate for ourselves effectively. So I love your guys' approach to diet and health. I think it's interesting to see how comical you guys are on social media when it comes to that, and you're really open about it. And so I was like, oh, these guys are funny, but they're also like have really incredibly useful information that needs to be spread and people need to listen to, and they need to advocate for themselves, and they can do that with diet, and they can do that with health and wellness. So I love what the show does. I'm stoked to be here.
Oh, we're so pumped to have you. And I think to your point, it's like we've always just tried to take ourselves off the pedestal and just realize that we've kind of been our own test dummies, whether it's like the different experiences that we had with carnivore and animal-based nutrition. I had ulcerative colitis for 6 years, completely healed it by going carnivore. So that was my proof of concept of like food really is medicine. And I would say in the mental health space, you're actually very similar to that, having your own experience with mental health, probably being let down by conventional westernized medicine, taking matters into your own hands and completely transforming your life. So it's interesting how you kind of take this curse and then you're forced to self-experiment, and that becomes like the ultimate blessing that you weren't even intended to have.
Right. It's like these paths that we're put on, whether we want to be on them or not. For some reason, some people are just meant to be doing what the thing they're supposed to be doing. And I also have this mindset that, and I said this yesterday on Drinking Bros, I feel an obligation, like in a healthy way. I feel a spiritual and purpose-driven obligation to turn around, take the knowledge that I've learned, cultivated, because other individuals saw when I was struggling, put the hand out and said, hey, I got you. And that is something that is so important and so underutilized. And it's the buddy check. It's the being there and accountable for other people and not just yourself. It's the community. It's the deeper care in humanity. And so I feel obligated because it was given to me in so many different ways, whether I was able to see them at the time or it took a little bit, or for whatever reason. When I was finally given the last option to really do some deep diving and some true healing to progress, after that, it's like you just can't go back. You can't unsee the mountaintop. You have an obligation when you start to heal others. And I think that's the difference between what I do as a coach, what I do as a leader, what I do in our community. I've walked the path since 2009. And some will argue before that with other traumas, right? Like we all have shit that happens. Oh, sorry. Can I swear?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. I'm trying to actively not.
We're working on it.
I know,
we'll
right?
turn the color red if you start.
I know. That's when my shade changes. She's switched on. But I just, you start to go down these paths and you start to have all these things, and we all have traumas that whether they combine or whatever it is that sets it off, if you will. Yeah. I just feel like you have these things happen to you for a reason, and you can look at life in a few different ways. For a long time, it was, this life was hurting me. I was the victim mentality, and I was in this place not because I was weak, not because my mind was, I wasn't a strong individual. It was because my gut biome was a mess. It was because my hormone levels were out of whack. It was because my nervous system was absolutely fried from being in fight or flight. I couldn't get myself into the parasympathetic. If you paid me, I was angry and I wasn't healing. I was over-medicated. And so I couldn't feel, so I couldn't heal. If you don't feel it, you'll never heal it. And so for me, once the door started to open, and I started to see that there was a true way to healing that encompassed all different aspects of my life, which takes serious amounts of accountability and effort, right? What I eat, how I sleep, what that looks like, the vitamins I take, the blood work we do, the fitness we have, like the constant mindset of, if I'm listening to this, is it going to help me or hurt me? Am I hanging around these people because it's the right thing to do, or because I think it's some way to, help someone or do something? What am I doing everything for? And so once I hit a certain point with that, you have to turn it around, and it's acts of service. So approaching the world with the mentality of this life is happening for me, not to me, and approaching with an open hand, going, how do I serve, rather than gritting and bearing through all of this existence.
You kind of already hit on this, but how would you describe your overall or overarching philosophy around mental health? Like what are kind of the key components for you when you just think about improving your mental health, like auditing your mental health, understanding where you're at, like all these components that go into just being a healthy person all around?
I just super love that question a lot. Sorry. I'm just really here for that.
He asked the good questions.
You know what, though? I'm here for big questions.
Yes.
The deep ones.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that.
Teed you up.
So humans don't thrive very well without sleep. Like we
don't.
We did it to people in Guantanamo Bay for a reason, son.
Totally.
Humans need sleep. They need quality sleep. They need their brains and their hormones to be fluctuating properly so that cortisol is not running through their veins 24/7. They're not getting deep sleep and REM sleep, that really refreshing sleep. So the first thing I do before I even assess if I'm going to work with someone, I go like, are you serious about doing this? Because what I'm going to ask of you is going to be exhausting. But it's only going to be exhausting until it's not, right? So we audit sleep right off the bat. What are your sleep habits? What do you do before bed? What does that look like? What's your room temperature? All of these things. You wear blue light glasses, not the fake ones, the fucking orange lenses, like the lenses where we all look like cool losers, like those ones. Do you wear those? What time do you start? Are you on your phone? Do you watch TV? How late do you eat? What did you eat? How much water did you have? How calm are you when you go to bed, right? Is your room pitch black, or do you have light coming in? We look at everything. Once we get you sleeping, that's a quick, easy win, because then you're convinced, oh my God, I feel so much better. Okay, fantastic. Now we look at your diet and your movement, okay? If you're eating like shit, you're going to feel like shit. That's just the reality. There's simple ways to eat, but we have been bred as humans to give our kids juice from the get-go. Milk that's not healthy for them. Sugary foods. So from was it 0 to 6 or 0 to 7? That's your window, right? To raise a human and really build those neural pathways. And we just hit the 7-year mark with our son. So I was like, I hope we did okay.
Yeah.
You know, like we really tried here.
Yeah.
So you have to break habits. So for food, we got to break habits. So now we start working on your habits, right? How do we get you to start looking at your diet seriously and not doing the thing that you know, is going to help the receptors in the mouth go, or is it like, what's the long-term gain here? So we look at your diet, then we look at your movement, because movement is medicine. And I know you had Eric on and he says that a lot, and it's the most true fact. Movement is medicine. It's what is it, almost 2%, 2 times more effective than antidepressant.
Yes.
Because antidepressants don't help you produce serotonin, they ration it. So it's like, when's it going to turn on? It's just not. That's where we're at. I did the decade of SSRIs. The damage is so frustrating to fix because it's serious. So we look at diet, movement, sleep. Those are your low-hanging fruit. You change those, you'll start to change your life. You'll start to look at perspective differently. You'll start to look at situations differently. And then you want to stress your body, right? So not just movement-based, but we need to stress the mind in a healthy dose. So I love cold for that. I love cold for that. I think it's one of the easiest, most accessible ways. That's super easy, no excuses. I have a Rubbermaid in my backyard in British Columbia.
Just a tub.
Yeah. I bought it at Canadian Tire. It cost me $40.
Yep.
Okay. It's cold up there. I mean, it's arguably you're the same temperature in Texas.
Yeah.
Which has been a trip, by the way. I love watching people drive slower with no ice, but cold weather.
Yes.
It's
There's
just
people are just
wild.
melting down here.
It's fully like no running water. Drinking Bros had no running water yesterday.
Oh my
no heat in the
gosh.
studio.
This is broken Texas.
This is fun.
17-degree weather. Broken.
You guys get this every other year. Like, let's learn the lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're from the Northeast, so we're like
You-
whistling
Yeah.
Dixie, but
Yeah.
yeah.
You're not. That's why
all
we
good.
just stood outside for an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, we're fine.
Yeah, you're like, hey, you didn't even ask me, like, are you cold? Like, everyone else was like, let's get you inside.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, we'll stand here for an
Yeah,
hour. I'm
we're
like, oh,
good.
these are my people.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to insult you.
No, right? I appreciate it. We didn't want you to think you're weak.
Yeah.
So stressing the body, stressing the mind using cold. You know, I keep a couple packs of ice in the freezer if I need to make it a little colder. But right now, temperature-wise, that thing's frozen anyway. So stressing the body in acceptable ways where it gives the body time to not only reap the benefits that cold can bring, but it also, you're challenging yourself every day. I don't want to get in that. Like my buddy right now, Jordan, I just had this guy. Oh my God. I just had this guy on the show. I know I'm going to get back, I promise. And he's been doing a cold plunge for 402 days in a row. I think today was his 402nd. His name's Jordan Ferroni. I just had him on my show, like last week. That's why I'm like, this guy's so funny. I love him. He's in Winnipeg, Canada. Okay. Just the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's minus 40. My temperature minus 40, not your temperature conversion. My temperature, like you, that's not acceptable. It's frostbite standing out in it. I know because we did workup training in Alberta at minus 40 and nothing works. Nothing, your face hurt. And he goes out every day into an ice trough and there's no, every time he drops a dumbbell or he goes to smash it and it doesn't go through, I just go,
That's insane.
every time he says the temperature and then he gets in that thing. And then he gives a mindset conversation. Very simple, very small, very easy. This isn't a guy trying to get fame, but he's blown up because of it. And he's such a normal dude. He just wants to see people thrive. And the way you do that is by making yourself uncomfortable.
Yes.
That is the only way, in my opinion. And so cold is great. I think it's fantastic. Sauna, if you can do contrast therapy, if you get access to a sauna, that's great. If not, cold is like a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
You can buy a Tupperware at Walmart.
Totally.
I mean,
There's
it might
no
be tight.
excuse. Go to 7-Eleven, get a couple bags,
Yeah.
fill it up with a hose. You're good.
It's not expensive. So
Yeah.
those are my low-hanging fruits for, let's get those wins. Because as soon as you get those, they see the results.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, now then we can start talking about what are you doing for a living? What medications are you taking? Do you need to be on those? Well, I've never really thought about it. Never really been in a clear enough mind to think about it. I might not need that SSRI. I might not need that Xanax. Maybe if I just learn how to breathe and regulate my nervous system. Then you just show them some up regulation, down regulation. You go, look at that. And they go, oh my God, I just did that. And so you empower people to empower themselves. It's not about me telling you what to do. It's just providing the tools that maybe you just haven't had the time because life is stressful. You're hyper-focused inward. You might have not had the time, and we neglect ourselves. Sometimes we just need a reminder. That's what coaches are good at, right? It's like they're an accountability tool. When everyone else has gone on with their life and you're trying to look after everyone else, eventually that catches up. So the way to do that is start being proactive. And the way you do that is by bringing it to the front, to the conscious part of your mind, where you're aware of it. When you're aware of things, you can change behaviors, but you have to be aware of it.
Yeah, we had this great guest on about a year ago, Safe Dean, who wrote the Bitcoin Standard.
Okay.
And he's big in the carnivore community. And he had his most viral tweet ever was he was just standing in a grocery store. It was like the cereal section. And I think he just tweeted out, I wonder how much misdiagnosed depression and anxiety is actually just sugar or processed food addiction.
Okay.
It's so good.
I have this parent at my son's school who is morbidly obese and says both of her children are on the spectrum. And due to her own traumas or just not being educated or for whatever the reason, I've seen her do this regularly in the morning where she'll give her kid a chocolate bar in the morning at 8 a.m. and then wonder why their child is dysregulated.
Yes.
Food is literally the answer to everything. Understanding your genetics to know what you have that will work with you is like the next level. You know, understanding how things are going to react to your body is key. That's why, like, before you go do like a heavy fitness event, you got to test your food or you'll shit your pants.
Yeah.
Like, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's going to affect everyone differently. It's like we're all different human beings in so many different ways. Of course, it's irrational to think that it's all going to be okay for everyone all the time.
Yeah.
You know, that's just not reality.
No. But I love how with your approach that it's like before we're talking, you know, medications, plant medicine, you're like, are you sleeping? Are you eating right? Are you lifting weights? But it's the unsexy thing. So no one wants to do the unsexy thing.
I love the unsexy thing. I think that's the best. I think that's why, I think that's where I thrive. I have this thing where I start talking and I don't always feels like it's me talking. We're going to get into the more woo side. It's like that life of purpose thing that comes out when you're really, I've seen this with pastors. And I know somebody like this there's a gentleman named David Meltzer. Have you ever heard of David Meltzer?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, you have. Yeah. He's sports. He was this huge, I think he is this huge sports agent and all this. Jerry Maguire is like based around his parts of his life. I don't know. It's the whole vibe, long and short. Insane human. I had him on my show for 20 minutes. And after that, they invited me to go do his Apple TV show. And so I walked into this room of ridiculous people. And what I learned from him and what I love about him is he's on a mission to make 1 billion people happy. This guy lost $100 million in 2008 because it was way back. He's all back. Like this guy has gone from like to like, I wake up every morning. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am well. I am loved. I am healed. And that is just what I say to myself every goddamn day. And it's because this man has put in me this idea that how you think matters. And he does this thing where he's like, yeah, it's not me on stage. It's just like flowing through me. And ever since I found healing, I'm not anyone special, but I feel called to what I am doing. So I do these things sometimes where I'll be like on these shows and things will just come out and I'm like, oh. But then I know there's that other part of me that goes, it needed to be said. And you're just the person to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't have any issues with saying the thing, right? But my light is my light is so fucking bright that it irritates a lot of people. And it irritates the unhealed portion of them that wants to heal, that's sad, that's not sure how, they don't know how to get there, they don't know the tool, but the want's there. And if you can get those people to look at the things that I've done or other people I've done and go like, I can see myself in that.
Yes.
And the way you do that sometimes is being just ruthlessly honest and vulnerable instead of being like, my 2A receptors, like, I get it. They're smart people. I'm not book smart. I'm life experience smart.
Yes.
It's just very different.
How has your military experience helped you connect with clients that you're now helping with like these deep or, a range of mental health issues or just issues in general? Because I imagine as a person who's ex-military, you've basically been to the darkest parts of, your own brain, your own existence. So you're so well equipped to help these people, I would think.
I was very lucky when I got in 2009 after I got hurt. So I was in from only 07 to 11. I was in a very short period of time. I was 18 years old. Rah, let's go to war, right? Did the thing. Things went wrong. Got diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. Got med boarded out in 2011. I wasn't in long, but I was in those formative years. The years where the brain's really still working and cooking. Yeah. Where the damage really is susceptible. Like this is where if we're gonna do it, let's do it here. Yeah. And then the way it was handled was it was mishandled, right? Over pharmaceutical. Well, the government in Canada didn't know how to handle some of these mental health issues that were happening. Yeah. We were just starting to see it for us, right? We weren't in Iraq, right? We were in Afghanistan. That was much later for, so you guys were getting these people come home early and being like, what's going on? Like PTSD, like how do we handle this? And we were in that throes of it. So I don't blame anybody. I don't think it was like a considerable effort to like, let's just like drug this person out, numb them out and like hold them in place for years and years and years. I think it's like the tools we had at the time. Yeah. Again, happening for you, not to you. Yeah. Right? Used to be, they drugged me out. They just, fuck me. I'm just another number. I am. That's realistic too. I am another number. Yeah. We're just another number. But what you do with that number is different for everyone. So I ended up getting a doctor in 2011 given to me when I moved out to British Columbia after I was med boarded. And his name is Dr. Greg Passy. And he served in Bosnia and Rwanda. And he's been a psychiatrist for 40 years, treating veterans, never lost a veteran to suicide. Wow. The guy's a hitter. And he was the first person to do research on post-Rwanda veterans on post-traumatic stress disorder. So this guy knows his stuff. And he was older and he had been through it. So I respected him, meaning I listened to him, different things. I had people before that where I just played the game. I don't need to be here. This is fine. I'm great. Do the thing. They're not qualified to handle what I had going on. So the experience allowed me to get to him. When I got to him, I was a unique patient in that he knew I wanted to heal differently. And it took a little bit of time, but I did the work and I kept showing up, right? That's the thing, is like I just kept showing up. It's like when you're trying to write a book, you're waiting for the muse, right? You just got to keep showing up. You're writing jokes. You just got to sit in front of the computer. You just got to be there to do it. Yeah. And so once I was able to start to use cannabis instead of some of the sleep medication I was on, that's where we started to kick things into gear. I was like, okay, maybe I don't need this. Okay, maybe we'll try this. And then we started to wean me off. And through 2009 to we're in 24 and now, I'm still with the same doctor every other week because I don't accept that some growth is okay. I do believe I have learned so much, and I was put in the position in the military. The injuries happened. I had to force myself to grow, or I wasn't going to be here anymore. So it was life or death for me. So I have walked the path of both the real dark because of that. And I'm now in the light. And so I think the beautiful thing that I tell people is even, feelings are like waves. You've heard these analogies before. Feelings are like waves. They're going to ebb and they're going to flow. And some days they're going to be calm and some days they're going to be rough. But in an hour, there might not be. In 10 minutes, they might not be. We know that suicide is an impulse, right? It's where all of a sudden everything comes hitting all at once, boom. And it's like, I can't do it anymore. It's all the perspective. How are you able to separate yourself from that? And when I hit a certain point with my healing where it was a little bit tricky for me, 2009 rolled around. COVID hadn't hit anything yet. Everything was going really well. But I still didn't want to be here. Husband, amazing. Been with him forever. Great son, super healthy. One of those kids that you're like, you don't have more because like you nailed it. Like he's healthy, he's growing, he's smart, he's cute. He's just a happy child. Yeah. He's full of life. We good. Don't test fate. And it was just like, I'm still not feeling fulfilled. I don't, something else was going on in my head and I knew it and I kept fighting it. And then when I started my podcast, my fourth guest was the one who brought up ayahuasca to me. And I just felt like it was too coincidental. It was just too perfect. It was too divine. It was too, something was there. Magic was there. And I grabbed onto that lifeline. After I did that, I was able to start to work through things that I'd been stuck on for a decade. And shortly after that, ultimately one of the biggest change makers because of the military was I got a traumatic brain injury. So, but that had gone undiagnosed for a decade. So all of these things that like I wasn't getting better at, we now understood something else was going on. And the only reason was because my husband had an undiagnosed traumatic brain injury from Supercross, and it all of a sudden his brain shut down 3 years ago. We were just in the garage listening to Joe Rogan. I was smoking a joint, and he dropped to the ground and said, "Honey, I'm dying." And that was it. And he dropped.
That's terrifying.
It was terrifying. It was during COVID. No doctors would see us. We got him in the emerge. They wouldn't treat him because he used cannabis, so they deemed him a drug addict. So we had to do this now. We have to fight for my husband's life. And thank God my husband's a fighter. So he fought for himself. Every blood work, every treatment, you imagine, as he was fading away, he was just fighting tooth and nail. A friend of mine named Ron O'Farrell was down in Texas. Good old Texas. God, there's so much good here and love here. He was at the Resiliency Brain Health Center with Doc Gaudet and Doc Eisenman. And he was with this Defenders of Freedom charity. And he was talking about these things. And something clicked, and I looked at my husband. I said, "Is it your head?" And he's like, "Maybe." Sure enough, as he's fading away, no one would treat us in Canada. I called them. They heard a voice message of me just bawling my eyes out. And they're like, this was Wednesday. He was on the plane on Sunday. And then he started to walk out of it. And then Defenders of Freedom, the CEO was there talking to my husband. He's like, "Are you married to Kelsi Sheren?" He's like, "Yes, ma'am." He's like, "I want to talk to her. We think she has a TBI." And nobody had said this to me at this point. She could see it in my eyes during my podcasts. I looked concussed all the time. Speech struggled. Sentences were a little choppier. Sure enough, they got special permission as a Canadian. They brought me down. They funded my entire 2-week intensive, and I did traumatic brain injury treatment with Resiliency. And so because of the military and all of that experience, all of this community was around me. But that community started popping up right when I started doing psychedelics. Before that, I was alone.
Yeah.
Whether I wasn't open to it yet or whether I wasn't able to see it because I was so drugged out, the darkness has helped me so much. Because ultimately in like black, in the pitch is black, it's all just fragments of light. We have to be able to pull back and see the perspective to see the light. Maybe there is light in all of this dark. We're just not able to see it. So I don't regret any of my service. I don't regret what happened. I don't regret my entire 20s just being constant fixing myself and medications and like hard, dirty work. I do it all over again because I know what it has allowed me to get to now. And that's just pure magic for me.
Yeah. It's all those experiences have led you to where you are now. And that's also why the negative detractors don't matter that are trying to like dampen your light, because you're so relatable and so vulnerable. For as many people might criticize you, there's so many more people that are like, you changed my life or saved my life too.
I think, again, criticism is a perspective and a reflection of how we feel inside. And people don't have to like that statement, and that's totally fine, but it is. I mean, if you're not a nice person, no one's going to like you because you're a nice person. But if you know in your heart of hearts, deep down, you wake up every morning and you have a mission and a purpose and you live that life and you do it relentlessly when no one's watching, when no one's helping, when no one's there, and then all of a sudden you start to pop on these things. Everyone's got an ego, son. Oof. That's okay.
Yeah.
But keep watching because this is just part one.
Yeah.
So you can feed into that, you can look into that, you can read that, you can absorb that and allow that to be what's talking in your head. Or you can see it for what it is. Hurt people, people who haven't healed are irritated by that. And it's not like, oh, I'm all this, like, I'm super healed and everything's perfect. This stuff is not linear and it ebbs and it flows. I'm just good at what I do and I'm okay with it and I lean into that. And as long as I'm leading from my heart, as long as it's right from here, it doesn't, this is, I did a, not to tangent as I have been, I apologize. I did a psilocybin ceremony as part of the special access program through Health Canada, through a macro dose with Apex Labs. And I was the first to do it. And it was such an honor to be able to do that, because now some clinical trials can move forward on some stuff. But what's so beautiful about that medicine opportunity and how it was integrated and the people I had around me and the environment I was doing it, it was so clear for the first time in a long time about this path and this newer trajectory I'm going, and how it's just like spirit, medicine, universe, God, whatever you want to say, just showed me visually. You're so on it right now. You're like so walking it, but every time you look to the right or the left of you and you give any of that noise, and she showed it to me in these little characters, and you know what it was? It was these rivers. And I'm on this path and there's this rivers, and they're in these boats and they're just pushing and they're pushing and they're pushing. And every time you look at them, they go faster. You just can't look at them. You can't pay attention to them. And then they start to slow down. And she would show that to me visually. I'm a visual person. And every time I just looked forward, the line got stronger and the rivers would deviate further. But as I paid attention, the rivers would start to do this. And then as soon as I looked forward, they just would go back to this. And she just visually showed it to me. And it was like, oh, I know what we're doing now. You know, these past 10 years have been like this growth and this learning, and like throw what sticks at the wall and just try and be there. And as long as you're doing it because you're helping, it's fine. Doesn't matter what happens. But it's like that evolution.
Yeah.
That evolution. You got to evolve. You can't stick, man. You got to move.
What do you think the public needs to know about plant medicine in the veteran community?
It works. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. You know, I do integration coaching for Heroic Hearts Project, which is an organization started by Jesse Gould, former Army Ranger. And there's other organizations like, you know, Vet Solutions with Marcus and Amber Capone. There's a bunch of organizations now, actually. But I do integration coaching with HHP. They're the first people I went to Peru with. They're the first people who gave me the opportunity. And I wanted to give that back. So, of course, I'm going to give it back to the people that provided it for me. And, you know, what's really magic is we're seeing people heal. We're not seeing people just get a little bit better. We're not just seeing marriages stay together. We're not just seeing people stick around for their own health. We're seeing people heal, right? Because with plant medicine, when you do it properly, when you do it safely, when you do it with an integration program on the front end and on the back end, when you do it with the diet, when you do it with dropping the alcohol and the caffeine, when you really commit to the change, it's not just like going to sit in the jungle and you do this medicine and you trip balls and then that's it. It's like the front end is intensive. You've got to meet the marks. You got to do the things, or you can't go. You can't be on certain meds. You have to show up. And when you show up to the medicine will show up for you. You have to be intentional. It's not like doing it on the weekend. No, this isn't like, I'm going to go do ayahuasca this weekend. It's like, sure, people do that, and there's no shame. You do you. If that's how you feel called to the medicine, then that's your journey. But for our type of people, and I'm not even saying just veterans, I'm saying first responders, I'm saying trauma, I'm saying people who are looking to do soul searching, deep dives, real connection, really want to get to the nitty gritty of who they are, why they do what they do, and heal from something. If you are the right candidate, because you have to be the right candidate, not everyone is. Nobody wants to talk about the unsexy side, right?
Yes.
The safe set and setting, the integration coaching, the no drinking, the no caffeine, but that's the reality. That's how you're successful at it. We've seen wild things. So HHP just did the very first legal veteran retreat in America. I think it was in November. And like I said, I got to coach on that. And I got to see one of my clients go through and front end to back end. And just, it was the first time nobody had to leave the country to go do the thing to heal themselves.
Yes.
Right? So where I'm from in Canada, I got to testify at the Senate subcommittee in Canada for emerging treatments for psychedelics for veterans and first responders. You know, they went through all of these testimonies and they're testifying and I'm saying my statement, which is available. It's funny because I obviously spoke too much and too fast because the translator had a hard time with that. And they just grilled me on it. And it was really amazing because, again, it didn't feel like it was me coming through. It felt like it was spirit or something heavier being like, these are the words you need to say.
Yes.
For them to hear you. And I said them with conviction. And I remember, because sometimes I'll have cortisol spikes when I'm doing shows, right? And so I'll like hook my feet under the chair. So I had like my feet under the chair and they were like rammed into the bars. And I was just like, we're not going to hand talk today. We're going to be slow and not swear. And they're going to hear everything I have to say because they need to hear it. And they came out with their findings recommending that the Canadian government dump a ton of money into psychedelic research. Wow. And so the tides are turning. It's not for everybody. But if you really are at that point where nothing has worked and you want to save yourself from yourself and no longer rely on someone else to do the fixing for you, like I said, if you're a candidate, it is definitely an option. But you need to go down the route of all of the other things first, in my opinion. You've got psychedelic tourism happening. You've got a lot of people, I just want to go do ayahuasca.
Yes.
That'll blow your life up if you fuck around. She will show up. Like you do that in the wrong set and setting, the wrong person administering the medicine, because it comes with the energy, right? Things cannot be great. You have to be smart about it. So that's why I love these organizations. That's why I work with them. That's why I support them. That's why I think they're fantastic for plant medicine and education. I also do stuff with Mindful Meds. They're out of Canada, but they don't just have like psilocybin. It's, there's the 60-page guide. They can get you integration. They can help you do everything properly. There's ways to do this stuff safely, but it's intentional. It's about why you're doing it. What's the intent behind it? Are you escaping? Because it can be escapism if you want it to be, just like alcohol can be. Just like it's a way to celebrate for people and it's a way to escape. Ultimately, it's terrible for you regardless of how you view it. Well, psychedelics, some of them, for the most part, they can help heal your brain, your gut health, all of these things. Microdosing for depression, for ADD and ADHD behavior, all of these things, it can work, but you have to do it right. And that's the other thing is the safety, right? You just got to be safe. You got to do it right, and you got to be intentional, period.
This might be a dumb question, but when do you feel like the actual change takes place when you experience one of these experiences? Is it like in the darkest part of like the visuals or like the drug episode, or is it like afterwards when you're going through like some sort of structured program?
I think everybody is so drastically different.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's different for everyone. I've personally experienced it where just being in the group, because when you do stuff with HHP, you're put into a group, your cohort, right, of 10, but you're in group chats before you even meet. You're in integration classes together. You're in these things and you're doing your own individual integration as well. And sometimes it's just like when you get into these groups, you're like, oh, you're in community. That has its own healing on its own. That vulnerability, that willingness to show up in that space, that heals too, right? That could be a big step for some people, just like talking to a veteran again. Some after you're a veteran, some people like don't like to be around other veterans, too triggering. Some lean into it. So that starts. And so sometimes people find relief in that right off the bat, which is beautiful. And then when you're in the medicine, I've seen people have such profound moments when they come out where they will weep and they will just be like, the most important thing in my whole world is my family. And maybe they've lost touch in that. And so it's so profound and it's so powerful that afterward, just from sitting there in it, as they come out, the realizations are in the bones. It's in your core, it's in your breath. It's like your realizations, your perspective shifts, the healing, you can come out and it's so intense. There's no words. It's in every fucking fiber of your being. And then I know people where they go through the ceremonies and they come out and they'll be like integrating, and like 6 months later, they'll get like a download or something will click. And it's like, it all makes sense. And then they just start to have that deep healing, and it could be later. So it's this really interesting thing because everyone's so different. The medicine speaks so differently to everyone, and it's what you need. It's never more than the medicine, in my opinion, from what I've seen, will never give you more than you can handle. And sometimes that might be the edge, and sometimes that's an ego death, or sometimes that's a death, or sometimes that's sitting there weeping for hours or just vomiting or laughing. Nobody talks about that. Everyone's like, everyone just vomits, shits their pants.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound fun. It's not fun. I don't shit my pants. I mean, I've come close, but I've purged so much that you're so physically exhausted and taxed. But while I was going through that, I was having profound soul-changing moments that words, the English language just doesn't, we don't have the capacity until you've sat in those moments and you've felt what you felt and you've heard the sounds and you've smelt it and you've been in the presence of something so fucking divine. There's no way to describe it. And sometimes that in itself, of being in the presence of something you can't explain, is healing. It's I'm not alone. I'm here. And when I speak, someone or something or multiples, they're listening. There's energy. Just because you can't see it. Our human eyes and our egos can't see it. We can see energy if you work on that. You can see it on people. You can feel it. That's why when you walk by someone, you're like, oh, that guy's a pedophile.
Yeah.
Like you can feel it.
You can feel it.
You can feel it.
Aura.
Yeah. So I think medicine is not for everyone, but man, if you do have the opportunity and you feel the call, because you got to feel the call. You can't seek it out. It's got to seek you out. But you have to be open to that.
Definitely.
So it's, there's so many people that are still with us because of it. You got to understand our community has 44 suicides a day, and that's just the documented ones, right? So, that's 2 times, that's grown, that's doubled in since COVID. We've lost 4 times more people to suicide in the veteran community than we did in all of the war. That in itself should say something, whether you like psychedelics or not, or you think they're drugs, or you think that people are just trying to escape, or you think that it's just like weak mentality to go do it and sit and cry in a circle with a bunch of bros. You don't have to like it.
Yeah.
You don't have to judge it. You can meet it where it's at and go, I can see that it saves even one father or one mother, which means that family and that child and that unit stays together, which means there's hope. So anybody who judges that, I have issues with, because I think we judge people because subconsciously we're feeling that way about ourselves. There's a lack there. It's that mindset of lack. So we have to put others down to fulfill, to have that positive feeling. I don't think that needs to happen. You don't have to love it. But let the people that are using it and healing and staying on this face of this earth, let them be. Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
That's how they do it. Let them be.
That's why I think the nuance that you bring into this conversation is so important. And I think I know where some of that judgment comes from. We talked about it a little bit off air, but Austin is an incredibly spiritual city, as you know. And I think there's this kind of like Christian resurgence that's happening. And there's also this massive plant ceremony community that also exists here as well. Yeah. And I think maybe where some of that judgment is coming from is we see a lot of people that are around our age that have done 10 plus ceremonies. And I think they almost view the plant medicine itself as God. And there's kind of like this unearned wisdom that maybe comes from that I think gives the drug and those experiences a bad name that then gets cast on the veteran community that are doing things in a very safe, purpose-driven way that you've talked about. Yeah. Tim Ferriss, Tucker Max, all these incredible people. So I think the point of what you're saying is that it's an incredibly nuanced thing and there shouldn't be any judgment around it. And like us, I've never done it, so I'm just purely an armchair quarterback. So for me to judge someone that has like an undiagnosed TBI or has been at war, I can't even possibly comprehend what they're going through.
Right.
So how could I judge something that's actually having a life-changing benefit to those people? And it's obviously had a life-changing benefit to you too. So who am I to judge that?
Right. And you're seeing it scale, right? Imperial School of London, Johns Hopkins. Like there's research. We got science behind it now. Like we have some real data here to look at neuroplasticity. We have some real data here to look at putting people into remission from post-traumatic stress disorder. Like there's something different here. So you don't have to love it. You do have, and you're always going to have this subset of people, though, who don't have an identity, right? Who don't have a purpose, and then find purpose in the plant. And so that's okay if that's got them on a positive trajectory. But the plant is a tool. It's not a religion. It's a tool. Now, for some cultures, people, tribe, these individuals who this is their life. These are the healers of the world. Like these are, this is just one tribe. There's the Kutanawa in Brazil. Like there's these tribes all over the world that use this medicine. This isn't that for them. That is their religion. That is their God, right? Whether you can fathom experiencing God in plant medicine, in my opinion, it doesn't have to be the traditional God you're thinking of, but there is a creator energy in that. A mover and a shaker. That if you talk to me, I'm here. There is that. And you see it visually with your eyes. You feel it with your being. It's profound. It doesn't have to go back, to the day where the guy got nailed to the cross for it to make sense. You have to experience that, though, to know that. It doesn't make it right or wrong, but you are always going to have a subset of people who their entire identity becomes the thing that saved them, right? Because it's safe. So you're always going to have that. But you have to, and this is where the deeper work is like, why are you looking toward it to save you? Like, is it a tool, or are you looking for an identity, a community, a spirituality? Or are you looking it to heal you, or are you looking to help the medicine, to help others? Like, what is your intent? Everything comes down to intent. Everything. And it can be abused, just like anything can be abused. Like anything can be abused. We've seen it across spectrums of religions. We've seen it across spectrums of humans, of people. There's always going to be a subset that are going to abuse it. And there's always going to be a subset that only identify with it. And that's like that for anything. But like you said, to cast judgment on the space because it's just new and people don't understand it, right? Because that's what you see. That's like all division divides in all things. Religion, medicine, politics, all division divides. Carnivore, vegan, you fucking like all division divides. And so it's the same with medicine and religion. Religion can't understand it. And religion doesn't like that they can't see it, touch it, feel it. It's not a book. It's not a thing. It's an experience. Well, people say, well, it's using drugs, it's altering your consciousness, all of these things. Well, I mean, the beautiful thing about Joe Rogan's platform is look at one of the researchers now that's swabbing the inside of pots. And they're finding psychedelics inside the wines who were drunk by individuals who were speaking to religion and talking like, it's like the idea of the burning bush, the idea of all these things happening. It's like, I'm hard pressed to believe that in all of humanity, in all of history, in all of religion, no one ever was dabbling in these to open up the mind and open up the energy and to open up the space for God. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
I just think these aren't new. That's the thing about plant medicine. They've always been here. And people have found ways to cultivate them and use them. People have found ways to abuse them and create pharmaceuticals and drug people out of their minds. Like it's intent, intent, intent. How is the Bible used? How does Islam use their religion? How does extremism happen? You can take anything and make a positive or a negative with it. And you can use it as the excuse regardless. Doesn't matter what it is. Everyone can do it with anything. So for plant medicine, it's like, if you don't understand it, that's okay. But do your best the same way you ask others to not judge what you do, to also not judge what works for them.
Yes.
Because ultimately, as long as you are happy, you are healthy, you are healing, you are a good part of society. You don't, like you said, you don't hurt your neighbor, you don't murder people, you're a kind person. Doesn't matter whose book you're in, you're winning.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like I heard this somewhere. do they do any sort of like medicinal ceremonies in the Army or in the military in the U.S. to bring bring the soldiers more together, like bring more of like a cohesion amongst a group?
Like medicine?
More so like I feel like
just
I
like
heard
community?
this, like, yeah, like maybe using psilocybin, like experimenting with it.
Oh no, we can't do that stuff. That's
Really?
illegal.
Okay.
It's illegal. Psilocybin's illegal
totally made
in
it up.
Canada.
Take steroids though, right?
You
In
can
the
take as many
military?
steroids, do all the cocaine as
Actually?
long as you pass the drug tests.
Oh yeah.
They
You
don't
can
give a
take steroids in the
fuck.
military?
Listen, I'll tell you right now. We were like 2 weeks out before our post deployment break. Okay, and all the guys that weekend from our base, whether they want to admit it or not, we're all doing cocaine off strippers' assholes. So drug testing day comes. We don't know about it. They lock the doors. Well, unless you want an entire regiment to not be deployable, you hustle them out the back door real quick. Look, if you're doing your job, you're effective. I mean, now that was the old days. That was the old days. The Army now is very different. We allow very little standards. Canada has tampons in the men's bathroom. You can dye your beard any color you want. Army's changed, son.
Yeah.
It's not the same, right? So we got some problems. And so in terms of like community builders and things like that, yeah, no, medicine is not. You'll be fired.
Right.
You'll be dishonorably discharged. Yeah, they don't really, That's post, yeah.
The government's always experimenting, so I wonder if there was anything going on.
I mean, you can, I know there's like veterans are doing programs, and if you're in a trial, you can get access and you have to just jump through the hoops and do the things. Like the guys that are going to go through after, they're going to do what I did. They're going to do the dose I did. They're going to do it, I think it's in 90 days, they have to do it 3 times. They have integration. There's a protocol, right, that is now developed. So then you can put yourself forward for trials like this to have access to something that's technically illegal. Because then if you're a candidate, then you can go into the trial, right? So Canada is looking in particular at things like post-traumatic stress disorder, major depressive disorder, and a treatment-resistant depression for candidacy for psilocybin. Is the treatment-resistant is kind of the key. So that's how you can get access. Like you can get ketamine. You can get ketamine here. I'm not a big fan of ketamine. I never have been. It works for some people. I don't love it. Anything that's a dissociative, which ketamine is, it's just not my shtick. No, I'm a more let's go in. Some people, ketamine seems to work for them. I don't like the approach always. Yeah, but it's the legal thing. So it's the thing that's used all the time. Just like how like when opioids came out, it's like, oh, you got a bad back. Oh, you got a post-surgery. Oh, you got, Vicodin. You make you a little happy, make you a little sad. It's like they're all used and then they've got an intended use and then they have an off-label use.
Yeah.
Ketamine's kind of like that for me.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I wanted to shift gears to a little bit of like a darker topic.
Sure.
Really happy. But I've just been thinking about this. I've never publicly spoken about it, but over the last 6 years, I know 5 men in between like 25 to 32 years old that have killed themselves.
Yeah.
And I would just love to understand your perspective of kind of what do you think is happening with young men? Why are they choosing to take their own lives? I know it's a super deep and loaded question, but it's just something I've been thinking about and don't have an answer to, and I'd love to get your take on that.
That's the thing about suicide. You're never gonna have the answer. Right? That's what makes suicide so hard. Forget it happening, the loss, the hole that you will leave that people think they don't realize they'll leave. Oh, no one will miss me. They'll not only miss you, your entire community is going to fall apart. There's going to be a gap that can never be filled. There's always going to be the thing in the child of the parent who died by suicide why couldn't they stay? Was I not good enough? Did I do the wrong thing? Is this my fault? Then like the widow title, like the damage it does, the anger, the frustration, I've talked to Sarah Wilkinson about this, Chad Wilkinson's wife. She's a good friend. She does the Chad 1000. She has a Step Up Foundation. And she's been on the show and she talks about it. She goes, I'm just so fucking angry. Nobody likes that, right? They don't want to be like mad at the guy, but I'm angry. You got up out of my bed and you walked away from our family. And when she said that to me, my heart broke for her because it's such a nuanced conversation around suicide.
Mm-hmm.
So some things are happening, right? You've got, were these military people?
No, one of them, the one that I'm thinking about was one of my buddies in college that I played baseball with, and he just like unexpectedly jumped in front of a train and killed himself.
Yeah.
Which was just crazy because he was like
Impulse.
good-looking kid, smart, incredible athlete, girlfriend. No one understood
Head
it.
injuries?
His dad said that there might have been some component to it, but part of why I'm bringing this up to you is like, so this happened in 2017.
Okay.
Everyone was just, really sad, missing him. And then I got lunch with his parents. And so the perspective of Sarah that you brought up, I kind of felt that on behalf of his parents, where I was like, just really angry. I'm like, you selfish fuck. Like, how could you do this to your parents? And I feel like that anger has kind of stayed with me, but I don't know if that's the right reaction. On behalf of his parents and his sister.
Well, the anger is always the outfacing emotion, but underneath it is the sadness.
Yeah.
Like, how could you? How could you do that? And I think all feelings are valid in that situation, right? Where some people are like, you can't be angry. How could you? The person was struggling with mental health. It's like, well, because I can be, and I am, and that's okay. Doesn't mean it will be forever, but it means I am, and that I'm gonna honor that feeling. Because to feel it, if you want to heal, you got to feel it.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got. Here's what I see. I am not a scientist or a doctor, but from perspective and being in the community that has the amount of suicides that we have, here's what I see with young men. Young men are being made to feel, and have been made to feel up until this new generation, which has swung the other way completely, that their feelings don't matter, and that they can't feel them, and that they shouldn't feel them, and that to be the big tough guy, you gotta work out, you gotta just eat meat, and you gotta just like take that and just shove that shit real far down. Like, it's cool, bro. Like, we've cultivated a community of people that boys don't cry. You know what? America, I see this a lot. And I see it in the rural areas of Canada. The harder people, the southern people, boys don't cry. Well, that was just what they were taught, right? So it's like hard to blame the parents, where ultimately it's the parents' responsibility to make that child feel accepted in all their feelings. But if they are not taught that crying is okay, that emotions are okay, that they have to just be compliant, you're dealing with a different animal. So it's not to like play the blame game, but you have got a generation of guys right now where, I mean, it sounds silly, but I don't know if you know of that musician, Oliver Anthony.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Did you ever listen to that song? That one he put out that went viral, that popped?
Yeah.
Oof. He's just saying what everyone's thinking, right? We've done some stuff to the world where if you're a certain type of person right now, you're just the devil.
Yep.
You're a straight white male. You're a cis straight white male. Ew, you have feelings and emotions? How fucking dare you in your white privilege? Shut the fuck up. That is why people take their goddamn lives. You think it's acceptable to tell people they can't feel because of their fucking gender and because of their fucking color. I'm so tired of this right now. When men are told, suck it up, you're the provider for the family. You're the provider for your children and your wife. How would you, like, I've seen there's this human. She's with like Turning Points or something. I love Turning Points. I love their guys' stuff. I think it's brilliant. I think they just say half the things I think, but I'm in communist Canada, so my words don't get out of Canada. So anyway, she went on the show, and there's this show where this guy sits down and he interviews like a bunch of people, and then he just like asks them questions, and it'll be like a bunch of OnlyFans girls, and he'll just like ask them, "Do you know who I'm talking
I know.
about?"
Whatever show.
Yes,
podcast?
whatever. It's fantastic. I love the premise of it.
It's hysterical.
Yeah, but he had this one girl on that's like a Turning Points girl. I can't remember her name for the life of me. I think she's fantastic, but I didn't love her stance on this, and this really bothered me. And it's this perpetuation that she said something along the lines of, "I wouldn't want to be with a man who cried all the time." And I was like, "You're 22. You have nothing to cry about."
Yeah.
But there are people that are older than that who have been around for a little bit who need to cry about some shit. Right? Because ultimately being with a spouse and being with a partner means you accept me for all the levels. So if someone is sick in the family or struggling and they need to cry, you need to be that rock. I don't care if it's ugly, what it is. You married that person. You're with that person. Good, bad, ugly, all of it. The wins, the losses, it doesn't matter. Your job is to be there for that person, make them feel safe and loved, and be like, I don't judge you if you cry every day for the next 7 days. Because if that's what your soul needed, that's what your soul needed. And I am here for you. And furthermore, you are more courageous. You are braver. You are showing a different side. That's called vulnerability. And honey, that shit is sexy. That is beautiful. That means there's depth there. That means they care about themselves to feel safe enough to let you see it. So all of these famous TikTokers and people coming up that have these like clip shows and all of these things, who are 20 and just getting married or never been married, who haven't been through anything, have the audacity. We talked about this. You have a responsibility when you have a platform. That's just my opinion. You don't have to love it. Well, I just got famous. I just been talking to my bros. But people are listening to that. You are what they hear. And that gets in their subconscious. So when people like that have platforms sit there and say, and this is not like a slight, I'm not even attacking her. I think she is good at what she does. But I would encourage that individual to take a step back and look at perspective and maybe go, we got an awful lot of 20 to 45-year-old men here that are killing themselves at a real high rate. Maybe it's rhetoric and unaccepting, the idea that women can sit there and say, oh, this guy's weak if he cries. Oof, that hits a nerve with me.
Yeah.
You need to be able to be open. And so you've got a loss of purpose, right? So maybe they had a job and then something happened. Maybe their spouse, something seriously happened there and it set something off. You've got, males' brains don't stop to develop until much later on than women, right? So then you've got, we used to see like a subset of individuals, like if males were going to have like mental health issues, it was a little bit later on in their 20s, you would start to see that, right? Early onset, like, or you would see things like one of my classes we looked at when I was doing crim was like you would see schizophrenia would show up at certain points, or mental health issues would start to show up at certain points. Well, understanding what I do now about traumatic brain injury and the delay onset, depression, what was his testosterone levels?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what are we talking about here? What else was influencing that purpose, person to do that? The loss of identity is always a big one. The loss of purpose is a huge driver. What does it all matter if I'm not here for anything? No one will miss me. And then you've got no one to talk to. Most connected generation, loneliest one in the world. Oof. What have we done wrong?
Yeah.
What did we do where we felt like no one could talk? What happened there? You know, you're not cool if you call your buddy, right? Yeah, I gotta talk to you about like how I'm upset. Like my wife's upsetting me. Buddy, stop being such a pussy. Well, like, come on.
Yeah.
There's a reason why the divorce rate is what it is. It was like 50-50. People just get resentful. They get angry. They just let it fester. Next thing you know, they look over, they've grown apart. Now their marriage is over. Now they have no purpose. They have no one to talk to. They feel alone. No one understands what it's to feel like. No one can help me. Then you slide. And then on top of that, if you have hormone imbalances, that's a hard one to beat when your brain is fighting against you now, isn't it? It makes all the chemicals. Yeah. It's not making those chemicals. Looking at head injury. Did they have concussions? Is that something that's started to affect the chemical balance? You just get a subset of people where they look ahead at the next 20, 30, 40 years. They're nihilistic. That's the responsibility of them to go, am I watching the news? Does it look dark? Is there a future? Would I want to have kids in this life? This world's crazy. Everyone's so angry. Everyone's so divided. So then they go, what the fuck for? And then when they have nothing to fight for and no one to help fight for them, that's when it happens.
Yeah, I think where my head goes with this, and I don't think this is directly related to suicide, but it's more so just like male mental health, is the two things that you said stood out to me the most are community focused and purpose focused, where there really aren't that many male only groups where you're amongst other guys where you kind of feel that like safety of like somewhat of like locker room
Yeah.
And like just being able to like talk to your guys, and then also just like a rite of passage, like some level of like purpose in a community where you are being brought up by other men who are older than you, who give you some sort of experience that you're not going to get just like isolated, or like, you know, in the modern world, like there really isn't anything that's bringing up young men to teach them like, hey, this is what it actually means to be a man. We don't really have that. I mean, I think the military is like maybe
well, it's not promoted, right? Because it's toxic masculinity. We don't want men to be strong. We don't need men. That's the other one I saw recently.
We don't need men.
Oh, I love it. It was like, we don't need men. What do you need men for? Are you fucking kidding me? How gross is it that we have people walking around? Because think about what's being said there. Take the word of like, we don't need, just take the words, we don't need men. Put that in the context of anything else.
That's evil.
It's like saying we don't need white people, or we don't need black people, or we don't need Jews, or we don't need Christians, or what are we saying? We're saying a whole subset of our population should just fuck off and die.
Yeah.
We don't need a man. Oh, the ego. Oh, the daddy issues, the hurt in that statement. Ooh, that's so heartbreaking. I'm so sorry you feel that way. I'm so sorry that someone genuinely believes that. Because do they genuinely believe it, or are they just reverberating things they've heard on TikTok? Because that's the thing you're getting, right? Not a lot of people truly believe some of these statements, but they don't want to go against them because they'll lose community. They don't want to have people turn against them, so they lean into the thing, even if they know it's wrong. I used to question how the Nazis did what they did. And then I've lived in Canada for a while. And I was like, oh my God.
There's a playbook. Right?
It's for real.
Brainwashing is not as hard as they make it out to be.
It's for real.
Yeah.
And it's scary as fuck. And so when people start saying things like that, no. I don't stand for that. I had it happen on the way to on the way here in Denver. There was we were on a bunch of cancels and delays, and we're all tired. And there was this lady, and we were in a line. We were just waiting to get our ticket, and this lady, just entitled, younger, entitled, mildly obese human, walked up and was like, "Excuse me." And I was like, "Oh, this is." I'm just listening to music. Shut your fucking mouth. And the other lady in front of me goes, "Ma'am, we're in a line. So if you would like to wait your turn, you were like," it was not confrontation. It was just, she did it so well. And this lady turned and looked at us and these three women and just goes, "I feel attacked." Now, I'm never proud of my moments when these things happen, but I just said, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing it here. And we're not doing it now, because you have not been attacked.
Yeah.
If I punch you square in the face right now, that's an attack. If I kick your legs out from underneath you right now for the stupidity spewed out of your face, that's an attack.
Yeah.
But no, we're done with this. And you don't get to run around and yell at people and treat people like that anymore. That's got to stop.
Yeah.
And so said it in a respectful manner for a while. And what I realized in that moment is you have to put a stop to this. If you do not say something right now, what is this? See something, say something? We're out of control. We're out of control. You have no. It's like a toddler. No more. Because if you keep perpetuating that mentality, what we have coming in this next generation, no. We can't do that anymore. We can't do that. We have to stop. We have to say the hard thing. Say the hard thing. Be respectful about how you say the hard thing. Be kind about how you say the hard thing. Come from a place of genuine, like, not today.
Yeah.
But you got to say that. You got to stop. We got to stop.
Yeah.
No more of that.
You have a responsibility to say the hard thing. It's interesting that I had a similar experience at an airport, And I think
always airports.
Airports are brutal.
Airport people.
Well, it's because it makes you realize that like this community that we're in is a bubble, and it's not like the rest of the world.
No.
So then when you're in an airport, it's just like a melting pot of all these people with different philosophies and ideologies, and you see this crazy shit. My girlfriend and I were flying back from Portugal in July, and we just hit some chop and some turbulence on the airplane.
Oh, geez.
There was some girl, 22-year-old girl behind me that was literally sounding like she was having a panic attack.
Yeah.
And she hit the emergency button 4 times to tell the flight attendant to tell the captain to like either go slower, raise the elevation, or decrease the elevation. She did it 5 different times. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm sure the captain of the plane that's been flying for 30 years knows less about how we should be flying than you because you're having a panic attack or you're not medicated or you have no idea how to deal with turbulence. But she literally hit the button 5 times.
So let's talk about why that happened. Right? That happened because somewhere along her life, everyone told her this world is about her. We're just in her movie.
Yeah.
Because we are, right? We're in each other's movies. That's how this works, right? Now, if you choose to act on that, though, like that, you really think that guy cares about you in like seat 22C?
Yeah.
And that he's just shaking the plane? Who are you to be that self-centered? How delusional? But you are because you're in fight or flight. Because along the way, something happened where she got dysregulated and she couldn't get herself back. And then everyone just kind of, it's okay. No, it's okay. They told her all along the way that behavior is acceptable. That's okay. You want to scream, you want to freak out, everyone has to cater. So people did that to her. So she stepped out into the real world and realized no one cares.
Yes.
That's a hard reality for a lot of people, right? That's a huge reality for people where they're like, when you realize that you're just another person on the planet, floating on a rock, in the middle of space, in the best time in history to live. Can you please stop shaking the plane? What?
As if he's doing it intentionally.
Intentionally, and only to upset her.
Oh my God.
Only to upset her.
Do you feel like the age of social media is ushering in
Yes!
this new age of like self-centeredness and narcissism? Like it's so crazy.
Oh my God. Here's the thing. I love the quote. It's the greatest. You can use a hammer to build a house and hit your dick with it, right? Joe said that one time and I resonated with that so hard. It's that social media.
Yeah.
People come down on social media a lot. But what it comes down to is I hate to break it to you, but that's the parents' fault. You have to either equip your kid safely. So like a friend of mine, I got some other people I was going to tell you about after, but a friend of mine, Alana Stott, she's anti-human trafficking. She's wild stuff like that, her and Dean Stott. And her early teenager has a phone. Ooh, that girl's smart. That girl's smart. She'll tell her other friends, hey, you know your Snapchat, I can see where you are based on your Snapchat. Like, because they're contractors and ex-special operators and she works in that side, there's a conversation happening here. Her daughter will be like, hey, mom, did you see that, like, my friend, like, should I say something? How do I handle? Like, she'll educate kids on how to have phone safety because she was taught and educated properly. She wasn't given the device to move the child away to be distracted, where then you've got the subset of individuals with their kids who only can stare at a screen and the self-validation and dopamine and their whole life comes from that. And so it's how you use it. Look at social media. We didn't connect through social media, but I connected with somebody who connected me with Ari, who connected me with you.
Yes.
I've said this before. I said it at Harvard. I've said it everywhere. Anytime, like, how do you book your guests? Like, how did you start your show? You know, you weren't in that space. You didn't have the connections. I used Instagram. I have a method. It works. And it's super simple. And it sounds fucking crazy. Like 20 photos in a row, follow the person right after, then hit them in the DM. People will see the name. They'll go to the DM as well when they're checking their stuff. Everyone's like, I don't look at social media. Yes, you do. Stop it. Stop lying. Stop saying you don't read comments. You may not sit there in depth and read them, but you scroll them. Stop it. There's like 2 people in the world that can say that, and I believe them.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan, I believe that. That motherfucker doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Goggins makes mixtapes. Like, you can deal with it, right? But don't tell me like the average person isn't like, oh, I just want to see how the episode did. I just want to see what the feedback is, right? It's not intentionally looking to look about yourself. But like, stop telling everyone you don't like in the comment. I'm so tired of that. It's such bullshit. So anyway, my point is, when they slide in the DM, they'll recognize the name. Sometimes they'll see like a blue check mark, and then they'll go and see, what does this person want? They're clearly trying to get my attention.
Yes.
They'll do one of two things. They'll be like, hey, and they'll communicate back, which 90% of the time they do. And then I book a guest through that. Because I put myself out there. I use my social media as a business tool and nothing more. It's not for self-validation. It's not because I think I'm amazing on camera and my editing skills are trick. And it's not because I'm over here trying to literally sell my asshole for money. It's because I'm going, I want a successful show. I want to reach as many people as possible. It's impossible in Canada. So the best thing I can do is break out of that mold. But the way you have to do that is be honest and vulnerable and show effort and be the same person you are on your social media as you are in your real life. Period. Full stop. Nothing more complicated. It happens when people use it to validate their existence on the face of the earth, because it's not being validated in their community, by their families, by those around them that should be validating it. It's filling gaps for people. And then if that's turned on them, that's the thing that brings them down.
Yep.
So it's how you use the tools. It's anything else. Coffee is a tool. Ketones are a tool. You abuse said tool, it's not ideal. So it's everything in your life can be that. So it's really your choice.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be this amazing tool where you're literally using it to build this incredible business, making a bunch of money, connecting with the exact people that you want to connect with. Or it can be this tool where you've curated this feed of super influencers that are on year 20 of their journey when you're on year 0, and then you're comparing yourself to someone that's on year 20, and then you feel like shit about yourself, and then you just stay in this like ridiculous
But you
loop.
got to recognize that, right? And if you don't recognize it, that's okay. Eventually you will come to. There'll be a moment, something will spark it where you'll go, why was I following that person? So here's what I do with my clients that I love this one. And if they let me do it, you have to be, I mean, I've had some good clients, but if you want somebody that's super ruthless about like your life, like I'm that guy.
Yeah.
Just lift up the
I'm
hood.
that guy. I'll come into your life and I will look at your playlists. What music do you listen to? How often do you listen to it? Right? Because that's going to influence you. Is it really depressing music? And you're like, I'm always feeling really low. Well, what's influencing you? What podcasts do you listen to? Do I get on there and do I see Huberman and Meat Mafia? Do I see, all of these like crime, murder, dark, like Jessie, Ross's wife, she does the crime corner. I think that's what it's called. I'm like, I asked her yesterday, I'm like, dude, I just don't know how you live your life like that. She's like, I gotta put it down sometimes. I'm like, I can't. I can't.
Why do women love these murder crime podcasts and
It's
shows?
so crazy.
why
It's like
do
all over the
some
place.
Women,
Some
I
women, not
cannot.
you.
I could show you my podcast list, and you would probably be surprised.
We probably have the same podcast list.
It's probably not far
Yeah.
off. There's a couple of different ones. I'll bet you aren't on yours, but I'll show you some of the good ones after. But I will I'll tell you, like, I'll go through your Instagram and see who you follow, because I want to know what you're absorbing. And I'll ask you, like, who's this? Who's this? Who's this? Because I'll go through the profiles. And if I see that where it's like that comparison, that like rah, like I've done it, your turn to do it. This is how you do it. This is how you make $1 billion. Let me show you how. Take my $50,000 course, blah, blah. And I see that's all you're listening to. And then I see you comparing yourself or the verbiage you're using. Then we just go like, you know that you're not obligated to follow any of those people, right? Like if that person's not making you feel positive, happy, healthy, helping you help yourself, help your family, help your community. Like some people are fun to follow just because they've got interesting stuff, and it's not like growth mindset all the time. You don't always have to be in that mindset, but is it positive? Does it make you feel angry? Are you always watching these protests with Hamas? Are you absorbed in the news? Do you only see the negative, nihilistic view of the world? Because if so, we got to talk about this, because people don't realize. Yeah, it's like, oh, everyone knows you're the 5 some people around you. Everyone knows that, but do you know you are the 5 podcasts? You are the 5 artists? You are the 5 major influencers you follow? Like, what do you believe in? What are you trying to achieve? And are the things that you do listen to, eat, or surround yourself, are they helping you at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't love that one, though. I've only had a couple clients that have allowed that, but they've allowed it, and it's made a huge difference. Huge difference.
It's crazy how you can actually program, though, on the other side of it, like really positive things into your life. If you, if you do like using social media and you follow the right accounts, you could like totally change your mindset.
Dude, like I told you, that's how I got on Lex Friedman. That's how I got on Gabrielle Lyon. That's how, like Doc Gabrielle Lyon. Who else show did I get just by using? I would say everyone, because when I went into started doing the podcasting, a gentleman named Tim Kay, who has the Veteran Project podcast, he was the first person to ever ask me on the show. And he saw what I was doing with the company, with Brass and Unity, and he wanted to like talk about it and like the journey with it. I never talked to anyone about it. That was the first time. And then after that, someone else saw me through the social media post. And then that kind of spread. And then I got to have my buddy Garant, he was like, hey, I got a couple guests from my show. Do you want to talk to them? Here's Dean Stott. Love Dean Stott. I was like, I got to have him on. Had him on. Went amazing. I was like, what's your wife like? Told me all this amazing. Member of the British Empire, 5-time author, just bad bitch, anti-human trafficking. You imagine it. You got it. And I was like, I want to talk to her. Talk to her. We became really good. Like, she's my best friend to this day. But then they were like, hey, I think you should talk to Jocko. Then they introduced me to Jocko. Then after that, I got introduced through a guy through plant medicine to Andy Stump. It's like social media is beautiful if you use it right. But we abuse everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Like I said, alcohol, drugs, spirituality, social media, food. Oof. Food.
That's our show.
I know. It's your show.
Yeah.
Natural segue. You're welcome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think I think it's made a very sad existence for a lot of people if you allow it. But it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
But it's your choice, right? There's that accountability factor.
And if you're not paying attention to it, it can slip so quickly.
It's life gets busy, things get crazy, bills to pay, Next thing you know, you're scrolling, you're death scrolling. You don't know why you don't feel good. Then you eat the processed food. Then you're on your phone before bed. Next day you're not feeling that good. Then you don't work out because I'm a little tired today. I'll start tomorrow. So you eat some more processed food because it was quick and easy because I didn't prep my lunch the night before. It's just like this, and it happens fast.
Totally.
Then they're like, I gained 100 pounds. I don't know how I got here.
Yeah.
Like, I can have empathy for that.
Yeah.
You were dealing with trauma. You weren't paying attention. You stopped paying attention. They bank on that. Food industries bank on that. Government systems bank on that. Religious sectors bank on that. Banks bank on that. No one's paying attention to anything. Canada's actively made children an acceptable list on the assisted suicide starting March 17th, down to the age of 12 for medical assistance in dying over depression. Okay? So, like, no one's paying attention. All division divides, and all of you over here arguing with the wrong person. What are we doing? We can do better.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
I know. I've been yelling about it. I'm trying to get anyone I can to listen to me talk about it, to be honest, because I'm over it.
Wow.
I'm a psychopath about it. Only because I'll tell you why. This is the personal journey again. I was suicidal for a long time, right? Seriously, not like I was like plans, letters, written, ready to rock. When you have a government that won't allow access to psilocybin that we know has incredible remission rates with depression, and then you include, starting March 17th of this year, the mentally ill, which includes depression, fibromyalgia, schizophrenia, bipolar, not even treatment resistant. Just like I'm depressed, I walk into the ER, I want to enact MAID. One of two tracks. You will be killed. Your family can't stop it. Even if you're, and that's the other thing, children down to the age of 12, they're called mature minors. But in Canada, if you sleep with a child that's 13, that's sexual assault.
Yeah.
So what is it? Do children have body autonomy at 12 or do they not? Because you're telling me they do. And then you're telling me that if my 16-year-old says, I'm going to enact MAID, because ultimately, like many of the things in the world right now, it's a social contagion. It's a community to be a part of. 2021, 10,500. 2022, over 13,000, Canada. When you build it, they will come. When you use the words from compassion and from empathy to end their pain and suffering. That's eugenics, motherfucker. Mm-hmm. These are the same verbs we heard in the 30s and 40s. Canada's including it. Canada is talking about allowing children down to the age of 12 to peace out and say, it's okay that it's too hard. You don't have to fight anymore. You don't have to change your diet, behavior, and surroundings. It's okay. And when your 16 or 17-year-old comes to you and says, I'm doing it, you can't stop it because they have their own autonomy. And if you try, you'll be arrested. And then my taxpayer dollars will kill that child. So the fact that no one's paying attention and we're sounding alarms, but you can't hear them, right? Because the CRTC in Canada controls under Bill C-11, the algorithm. Unless I use a VPN, I can see no news sources anymore. Right?
Yeah.
Something's going wrong. And that's why when I go on the Drinking Bros and stuff, they're like, the Canadian's back. And everyone's in the, you read the comments. They're like, did she escape the gulag? Did she make it out? Is she still allowed to leave? This stuff's for real. This stuff's for real. The gentleman I told you about having on, Dallas, the government sent a cease and desist to Sean Ryan when Dallas spoke up about being kicked out of the Canadian military for not wearing a mask or getting vaccinated. One of the deadliest snipers in the world history, and others in his unit were walked out of the base and told, see you later, you're never coming back. Right? So they will do whatever they can to make sure this stuff isn't known. Like I told you, I've got over 200 episodes on the Brass and Unity podcast, and this week's episode, it's not with the famous person. It's with the person whose mother was killed by MAID while they desperately tried to stop it. And the RCMP are looking into it because it was fast and nobody can get access to the medical records anymore. And because Fraser Healthcare in British Columbia has been offering it to pensioners, perfectly healthy people. And when I leaked that to the Daily Mail, they said we didn't send it to anyone when the metadata showed thousands. So when you start attacking the vulnerable, the people that I was, if you would have offered me MAID, then I would have taken it. We can all be saved. We all deserve to be here. And when you have a government starting to say, you should quit, it's easier to die. Well, when you find out that they saved $86.9 million on using MAID instead of palliative care for people who were dying.
Wow.
There's always an incentive. So fortunately, I come down here and I yell about the things for people to hear because, like, again, they're not paying attention because everyone is so distracted with the vision. We need to just look up for a second and realize that we are all the exact same. We just want safety. We want freedom. We want healthy food. We want a good education system. We don't need much. We've overcomplicated things. Just overcomplicated things. And that's a concern. I'm concerned about a few topics. I don't rant on many things, but when you start telling people they should kill themselves, when I've spent my entire career post-military trying to keep myself alive and then keep as many people I know alive, doing everything I can in my power, answering the phone at midnight, showing up at people's houses, just being there, holding space, and somebody still feels like they need to end their life. I can't help but feel like the outside pressures and the people at B, they love that shit. That's why they started offering it to veterans in 2019. Quietly and discreetly. You get rid of the liabilities and the financial liabilities. So I get my back up on a few topics because I'm paying attention. And I have a responsibility to pay attention now. So I don't have to... People don't have to love what I say. They don't have to believe everything I say. I encourage you, don't believe everything I say. Go read it.
Yeah.
I always provide whatever I say with receipts on every level. So it's that, you know, I love that. I told you at the beginning, it's like that Cat Williams interview. It's like, I got receipts, bitch.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm solid. I'm sitting here. It's good.
Yeah.
I got no stress.
But this is also why you're not going to stop, because these things that you're talking about are just so fundamentally important. I mean, it's incredibly chilling to think about seeing you now and all the people you've positively impacted, all the things that you've done, to think back to when you were at the lowest of the low. Had you been offered MAID, you said you probably would have taken
No,
it.
I'm not probably 100% full stop. Like no questions asked. Like no questions asked. I cannot be more clear about that. It was not a if, it was a when. That's it. But the idea, because here's the thing. Everyone thinks I'm opposed to MAID in general. They're like, Kelsi, you've never seen a stage 4 cancer victim in excruciating pain, just screaming to die. No, I probably never have to. But I do know it exists. And I do have compassion and empathy for that. If it's foreseeable and I know you are on your way out. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to be in pain. You know what I wish for you? I wish for better palliative care. I wish that our system was better. That instead of taking your life using MAID in 2 months and not because you couldn't see a brain specialist for 18 months in Canada, I wish better healthcare for you, better preventative medicine, better education on food health, so maybe the cancer didn't show up. I wish that you would have had the opportunity that we have right now. I wish that. I don't ever wish you should need to use MAID, but if you do, you better be over 18 years old, and there better be a certainty that you are leaving this earth, and it never should be acceptable for mental health or children at all. It is unacceptable to think that we are normalizing this behavior, especially mental health. Are you fucking kidding me? That's sending the message again. Mm-hmm. Once an addict, always an addict.
Yep.
You'll never heal. Kill yourself. You're a burden on the system. You're a burden on your family because you're sick. I was a burden on my husband for 10 out of the 14 years we have been together. But he saw that that wasn't me. And the person he fell in love with was right fucking there. She just needed someone to lean on. So that when the episodes happened and the things happened and the triggers happened and I was on the floor. I remember having to get off my SSRI. I had to do it in 30 days because I couldn't be on it when I went to do ayahuasca. Screaming on the floor of the laundry room where the washer was going so my son wouldn't hear me because I was in so much excruciating pain because of a drug that manipulated my brain for so long and my gut health. I remember being there, just wanting to die. Like I've been there. I've been in the pain. I know what that feels like, to think that it is better for you to not exist. To tell someone that they can never come back from that is blasphemy. It is disgusting. It is like, it's the worst of the worst. And people say, I just have empathy for them. I just want them to end their pain. I want them to end their pain. If you wanted them to end their pain, you would help them fucking heal, not kill them. Why did we normalize this? We're normalizing some really heinous, destructive behaviors that have long-term repercussions that we cannot fathom. When did that become okay? It became okay when people started speaking up, and the people that spoke up got slammed to the ground and lost businesses and got demonetized and lost shows and lost careers. When we started saying it's okay to cancel somebody for something, the only reason you should be canceled is if you are Jeffrey Epstein, anybody on his fucking planes, and anybody who harms children or traffics them. If you don't beat someone, you'll be all right. But if you say something, it's a different conversation. Let's talk about where that's coming from, why they're saying it. Don't just go, oh my God, I can't believe somebody said that. This is the other thing, right? Talk about mental health. This is the other thing, right? You've got, this one grinds my gears. You've got, people are going to love this. You're going to love this. Kanye West. Okay?
Yep.
How can you allow, because this is where I think we're at, without knowing the man from a hole in the wall from just the outside perspective. So take that with a grain of salt, right? I don't know him. How can we allow someone with such a very obvious issue with mental health to go up and be so public when you can see they are struggling at their core, whether they're aware of it or not? There's things like Capgras syndrome. It's like a form of schizophrenia type bipolar behavior where you can say I'm so-and-so, and then I go, no, you're not, right? There's things that need medication in order for you to be a successful, productive, safe part of society. We protect you from yourself at certain points. If you're not willing to take your meds, then you are non-compliant. You'll go to a remand center. You get what I'm saying here?
Mm-hmm.
When you've got someone like Kanye West, who we know is bipolar, which we also know through a lot of Gary Brecka's work, if you've paid attention, there are genetic markers where you take certain vitamins and they react a certain way that can cause manic behavior. Food, diet, here we go again, right? What are the genetics? We have someone that you see that is struggling with something. In my opinion, that's how I see. I see that he's always been a creative genius, and that comes from, you got to be a different type of guy for that. Mm-hmm. But I think he is a creative genius. I think some situations happened in his life that sparked something happened chemically, something went awry, and we're allowing him to be out there, and we're taking him with all the seriousness in the world that we would take anyone else. Mm-hmm. We should be helping people like that. The shit he says is so offside. I can't think of a time in my right mind where I've heard somebody who's truly in their right mind and balanced chemically, properly, truly, who says that stuff. Can you?
No.
But you get where I'm going here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to look at what this is pretty. Like, he said some pretty far off stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not agreeing with any of it. Let me make that abundantly clear. But what I'm saying is, like, when somebody that is struggling starts acting in these behaviors, why isn't somebody taking this man aside going like, we need to figure this out before you go out in public and start opening your mouth again. You've worked so hard for this career. You're a creative genius. Your music is unmatched in a lot of ways. Why will we let you burn your whole life down? He should be surrounded right now. People like that should be surrounded by communities who see them not as just money makers, but as human beings who are like, something's wrong. Something's wrong. We need to help this person. And you can't help everybody, but I'll bet you he's got a group around him that probably should be doing that.
Yeah.
Or is paid to do that. So my point in saying that is, like, people are going to say things and do these things. We have to be more aware that there is a mental health epidemic post-COVID. Oh my God. We're not going to feel the effects for like another 5-10 years, but you're seeing in like psychiatry and psychology, like nobody can get appointments. You can't get into a family doctor. You can't. Oh my God, no. They have like the telehealth stuff now and things like that, but that's not a rapport with a doctor, with a person who knows your family and your community and everything that happens to you, who can be like, what did you do this week? Oh, well, so-and-so. Well, now you got to explain who so-and-so is and why that person's important to your life. Do you get what I'm saying?
Definitely.
There's no build. There's no community again. And so I'm concerned that you have these people who, post-COVID, for whatever reason, just didn't come out all the way. And there are these amazing humans who just need support in everyday life, whether they're famous or not. But if somebody starts saying things and your response is cancel them, remove them, erase all of their work. Did you rape a kid? You good. Did you beat a woman? No? Have you been a good human other than saying some fucking offside shit that we know there's been some crazy things in your life? Like, let's talk about why. Mm-hmm. Don't just cancel people. The second we started okaying that, we were going down a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scares me. Not in the sense of like, I'll censor myself, but that scares me for anybody trying to do anything, because it can just be, doesn't matter what you did.
Totally.
It doesn't matter.
That's why the work that you're doing is so important too. Or, I mean, I don't know if this is true, but it feels like this is like your life's purpose, like what you're supposed to be doing in terms of just talking about these topics and really opening up the veil on mental health in all these different avenues, right? Like people who are famous like Kanye West, or people who are struggling with PTSD after coming back from the military. It's like, I think you're kind of like perfectly suited to keep championing this message.
I'm going to do my best, but here's the thing, like, no one's perfect. I don't have all the answers.
No.
I've lived the path. And I can provide what I can, and I don't deviate from my lanes. I constantly educate. I learn. I try to pick up new skill. I constantly try to evolve. And if I can't coach you in the way I know I can, I'll give you to the person I can. I'll give you everything I have. That's why, like I said, I've gone into the coaching space, as much as people say it's like taboo or whatever. I've gone into it because I had like pseudo coaches all through my life. When I was a Taekwondo fighter, my coach was my God.
Yeah.
Then he raped a friend. We had some problems. You need coaches in your life in all different ways. You need mentors in your life. You need people that you can draw on for inspiration and safe haven. And how did you do it? It's to prevent the mistakes. When I started the business, I didn't have that, right? I was just running with it. How do I just help people? How do I help people? I don't know what this looks like. Let's just figure it out. And then over the past couple of years, I've developed the brand and I've developed the show, and I've done my best to put myself in the rooms, in the right positions. And if I'm not in the room, to surround myself with the people who will say my name everywhere. Because that means that if that is happening, I've done one thing right. And that is to show up from a place of genuine, like, I hate this word, but authenticity. And to accept and know that I will not be everyone's coffee or tea or wine or beer or drug. And that is okay. There's 8 billion people in the world. The last thing I want to do is have everyone love me. I would like to be liked or hated, because that means I have a set of principles. And I have a line that I am willing to walk. It means that I won't flip-flop on things. I'll take your evidence and I'll consider it. And if I feel like I've missed something or I didn't understand there, I'm down to let's learn about it. You just don't have to be married to this idea of this. It's because it's identity, right? So I just think if you show up with a genuine intent in your life, in all of your life, whether it's what you eat, what you do with your time, who you spend it with, your job, like what you guys said, you left stable jobs.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
So there was no other option.
But do you see that though? There was no other option. Why was there no other option?
Because we just saw so much misinformation out there that's similar to what you were talking about. If we don't speak up about this, what if no one does?
Right. Self-accountability.
Yeah.
Purpose-driven work. And now you see your shows top, 10, 15 on a regular ongoing basis. Your show's huge for a reason. It's because you both care. You come from it from a place of, I don't need to make the money. It's not about the money. It's about holding space, having 2 men that are willing to be vulnerable enough to hold space, which we have all types of dudes hosting shows. All of them. Everyone has a podcast. Not everybody needs to have a podcast,
Definitely.
You know? When you have the art of holding space for someone, you can't teach that shit. It comes from the drive. Well, what's driving it? Is it financial? Is it trying to help others? That's why you and this show succeed. It's because you're holding space and you're coming from an intent of support and community and education. So that's why your show fucks. That's why it's going to continue to blow. And you're going to be sitting here in 5 years now, and you're not even going to this isn't a job. Do we realize that we're sitting in a room in Texas on a Wednesday talking shit?
Yeah.
And you did that because you took action in your life and you weren't willing to just sit there and be like, I can just make money and have a living. Like, I have a responsibility now. And you took that on full on. That's why I was excited to be here, because you guys care about the deepest parts of what make people good. Their nutrition. Their nutrition. And now I tag you in every meat post I have.
Let's go.
We love it.
I know, I'm so sorry about that.
All those salads that you make on the Traeger.
Dude, we had a family thing on Sunday. And I said to my husband, everyone was like, I'm bringing a salad. I'm bringing a salad. I'm bringing a charcuterie board. I'm bringing a salad. And I was like, "Hun, let's make a brisket."
Yeah.
And I was like, let's make a brisket. You make a brisket? Will you make the brisket? And he was like, yeah, I'll make a brisket. And so I think you don't have to love the carnivore diet, just switching gears. You don't have to love it. But I will tell you, from somebody who has like done all the things, like the carnivore diet, I'm not fully carnivore at all, but I predominantly meat. And magic, just magic. It's unmatched. I had Michaela Peterson on my show last year, year before, and like we were talking about the TED Talk and how they wouldn't post it because it's not proven. It's like because the FDA didn't prove it, or we just healed ourselves. It's like the veterans in the psychedelic space. We let you guys try for a long time, post World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, Iraq, Afghanistan. You didn't get it right, did ya? People are beating their wives, blowing up their families, killing themselves. So we said enough is enough.
Yes.
And we had leaders go, I can leave this lovely job, take the risk, heal myself, and go out and heal each other. That's what you're doing. Through doing the show, you're exposing people to new ideas. You're challenging their set of belief systems. And they're saying, why not try this? What's the worst that's going to happen? What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to feel better? Okay, great. We'll risk it. We'll risk it for the biscuit. We'll sit down. We'll do some podcasts. We'll talk on a Wednesday as this. This is our job. This is our job. Do you see what we've created?
Mm-hmm.
This powerful. We haven't created the podcast space. We have great people to thank for that. But they opened the door. So how dare we not see the door open and not walk through? Like, how dare we? Who are we to be like, too big for podcasting? Yeah. Corporate America's the way to go. Yeah, who are you helping?
It's all a mindset. Mm-hmm. And you're helping so many people, and we're just so appreciative for this conversation. I feel like we've known you for years now at this point because we've had like 3 hours of just incredible conversation.
So sorry for your loss.
No, we're definitely going to do some brisket soon too. But in all seriousness, we're so appreciative of just who you are, the message you put out there. Like we just need more people that just like lead courageously and say the right things that need to be said that a lot of people maybe are a little bit scared to say. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that we both really admire about you, and just so appreciative of you coming on. And we definitely need to do a part 2 at some point in the future over some steaks.
Oh man, thank you guys so much for having me. It's in this kind of new endeavor where I've always been in the mental health. We went from fashion, then we went more focus. It's like, all right, we found where I want to be. So thank you guys. You guys are the second, other than Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, that's been willing to sit down and chat with me about more wellness and the mental health side and my coaching practice and ultimately how I live my life. And then I just try to help others, learn from my mistakes. So it's, I know it was a big risk. I'm not a nutritionist or like a doctor or like a biohacker or like a health guy or like an ultra runner. I ride road bikes.
You do?
I am a road bike rider.
Let's go.
So we're there still, but I appreciate it deeply for the opportunity because you guys are changing the world with food for thought. You're being intentional.
I like that.
Food for
thought. You're welcome.
Good branding idea right there.
Just saying, you just let me know when you need help.
We really might need to tap.
You know what? That's fine. It's food for thought. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You just start a segment and you just name it after me. It's fine. The segment is brought to you by Kelsi's Face.
We'll have like a little asterisk.
Perfect.
Like, this is
that's perfect. This is the only Canadian we've had on our show. She came up with something great. Yeah. But no, truly an honor. Thank you. And I want to have you guys, and I think I told you this, like I'd love to chat with you guys. I think you both bring a really unique perspective. Mm-hmm. I'd love to have you guys on to talk about, I think, your business. I mean, this protein company, I'm super stoked for.
Can't wait to get you on the Noble train.
Dude, yeah. I'm so stoked to give this a go because, it's clean and it matters what you put in and you guys are thoughtful and intentional. And because of how thoughtful and intentional you are about every other aspect of your life, I can't imagine this will be any different. So I'm really stoked for that. I'm really stoked to talk to you guys more about faith. I think I'd be really curious because like our conversation before, like those are the ones, man. Those are the ones. That's just always the way it goes, right? So I'm really stoked to talk to you about that. I'd love to pick your brain about the, the existentialism around like life and death and faith-based and really just the moments of creation that made you make the ultimate decision. So whenever we get that on lock, I'm excited. I won't make you come all the way up there. Trust. I'll be back
say,
down.
are we going to Canada?
Yeah.
You can come
down.
to Vancouver. I'm telling you, we can go skiing.
Dude. I'm in.
All right, we're gonna have a chat about this after. But can I plug where you can find my
Yes,
my
we'd love
things?
that. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm the other podcaster doing me right now. I apologize. Old habits die hard, man. Okay, so. I do own a company that I did start back in 2015, and it's still going, and I love it dearly. And it's the vehicle to put the money in the hands of these organizations we support. So it's called Brass and Unity, and the concept around it is we used to take them. Now we just produce our own bullet casings, put them into jewelry pieces. We have a product that's really near and dear to my heart. It's called the Buddy Check system. And it comes in a pack of 2, and it's this paracord rope bracelet here, and they come in different colors, and they fit everyone. And the whole concept is you buy a pack, you call a buddy, you save a life. So it's about starting those hard conversations with these, I call them the fighting age male type, right? These guys going through the transitions in their lives. Instead of saying, hey, let's go have a beer, it's a reason for you to call. Like, hey, man, I just want to have a chat with you. I got something I want to give you. Like, okay, cool. Then it's a meetup. Now it's like an opportunity to be like, hey, how you doing? This is what this means. This means that when you feel like you need someone to talk to, you have that spot. And I know this is lame. I may sound like a bitch right now, but it's like, if you need me, you can call. Put this on your fucking wrist.
Yeah.
Right? I've seen it work. We've sold over 20,000 of those since we branded it as the Buddy Check. It's just the ownership and responsibility on you and your community, full stop. That's what it is. We donate 20% of the net proceeds to the organizations we work with. And some of those are Heroic Hearts Project, Defenders of Freedom, who put me through brain treatment, Vet Solutions with Marcus and Amber Capone, Boot Campaign, which is just an unmatched organization here out of Florida and Texas. Unbelievable people. Honor House in Canada. I actually got to do my very first TED Talk, my TEDx. Because of Honor House, they asked me to present on behalf of them about mental health and a little bit of my journey. So that should be out in the next month or 2. I'm really excited for that. And these organizations we support are highly vetted. You know, they stretch the dollar, whether it's $1 is 92 cents or all the way $1 goes to $1.52 with Honor House. Like, it's wild the stuff they do. So I encourage you guys to check them out. And when you buy products like that, we support those organizations with those funds, as well as we work with. We have a collab with Boot Campaign, and then we also have a collab with Support Our Troops, the Yellow Ribbon. So that's fantastic. I'm really proud of those. And then, you know, I have the Brass and Unity podcast, which is where it's a podcast like everyone else. We talk to incredible individuals like yourselves, you know, people who are just changing the world, who have stories so that others can resonate with that, the up, the down, the all around here. It's not just military. We definitely have special operators on, which is always a riot and a good time. I love them. Good old community there. But we've got some bangers out this year. I'm really excited. We're going into our 4th year of the show. Wow. So you can everywhere, YouTube, Patreon, all of the things. I have a community. I know I've got so many things. I'm sorry. I've got a community on Signal that you can access through Patreon. It's our mental health group. It started 2 years ago. We have people from all over the world. We do monthly calls, monthly challenges, and you're on Signal, and everyone's, you know, it's a community. It's special. And then I launched this year in January, KelsiSheren.com. It's where you can sign up for my coaching, for my one-on-one. I don't do group, I do one-on-one. I believe that's where the work can really be done, as well as where you can pick me out for speaking if you want to do anything like that. So I do a lot of work on that. And then I'll have retreats available this year with yoga, somatic breath work, and all of these other things if you want to meet up in person. And then Dallas Alexander and I have a live every couple weeks on our platforms called Wait Out, which gets you up, gets you moving. You just slap on a weight vest or a weighted backpack, and you just come live with us and you chat with us. And we just talk about life, and it's a podcast essentially, and it's something we're looking to grow. So I'm super stoked about that. But yeah.
It's incredible how many things you have going on.
I'm sorry. Yeah, and I'll tell you about, and the other things, when I can talk about those ones, I will come back and we will have that conversation, I promise.
That's definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.